Do I wait here or sit down and come up? Or?
Yes.
Guys, we got
One more minute.
oh, one more
We
minute.
have 1 minute. I put my phone away, so I don't even know the real time.
I have my watch. 5:05.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Let's get started. I'd like to call to order the school board meeting for a budget public hearing for our final budget. Today is September 5th, 2023. Let the record reflect that Board Member Davis, Board Member Garrick, Board Member Pennick, Vice Chair Sanchez, and myself are here, along with Superintendent Beeman, Attorney Cole Palmer, and Board Clerk Jill Moramis. Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you.
And Chair, prior to moving into any comment or discussion, we have the discussion of the millage rates and final budget queued up for you all, and that will be led by Mr. Bargeron, who is at the podium.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Barjan.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, so tonight's public hearing is the culmination of the budget development process that began last November. We had a meeting today to talk about some budget things, and it just hit me, gosh, we're already going to be developing 24, 25 in the next few months. I mean, it's a constant process, but this is a very prescribed public hearing. We're told what we have to discuss in the public hearing. The millage rates are millage rates, tax rates are controlled by the legislature, and the school board only has the option to lower the tax rates instead of increasing them above what the legislature authorizes. And to do that would put us at a competitive disadvantage to our neighboring districts. So, you know, every school district that I've worked with or for has levied the maximum millage. 70% of our millage is the required local effort millage, and there's some slides that hit on this, but just the 50,000-foot view first. About 70% of the total millage is the required local effort millage, and it's exactly that. The board has to levy that tax rate, that millage rate, in order to participate in the Florida Education Finance Program, which is hundreds of millions of additional dollars, and the tax collections and the FFP revenues join together to achieve our per-student funding that the legislature contemplates every year. There's no change in the millage rates from the tentative hearing that was held on July 25th. The only thing that's different is we've updated some of the 23-24 budget information. You know, we've closed out 22-23, rolled some funds forward, increased some investment revenues. This presentation is not intended to go into the details of those changes. It's just presenting the tax rates, asking you to approve those, and then presenting the associated budget at a very high level and asking for those to be approved. Another point about tonight's budget is it says final budget, but it's really the beginning budget. So all amendments, all future amendments, which we have amendments at every board meeting, this is the starting point. It's a little bit of a odd name for it, but that's the way it is. Am I in control of the PowerPoint? Okay. We've talked about the millage and budget. There will be an opportunity for public input. Then there will be adoption of resolutions for the total millage and the final 23-24 budget. And then we will certify what happens tonight with the Department of Revenue. We send the information over to the tax collector and property appraiser, so there's a lot of shared information. If I didn't mention it, this is all controlled by a statutory group called TRIM, which stands for Truth in Millage.
In millage.
Oh, here we are right here. It's about transparency to taxpayers, and it provides an opportunity with the tentative millage rates that were set in July. The tax collector then sends out a notice of proposed taxes, and any concerned citizens can come and address the board at this public hearing prior to the final vote to adopt the millages. We did have one gentleman that was here before the meeting. I gave him my number and suggested that he call the property appraiser because the real underlying issue for him was a significant increase in his taxable value, not the tax rates. Just so, why is it called a mill? The way that taxation works here is it's 0.001 times the taxable value of the home. So our total taxable value is 5.378. So times the $100,000 taxable value, it would be a $537.80 tax bill. So that's how that's calculated. And we talk a little bit about the Florida Education Finance Program. I mean, I've already touched on a lot of this with my opening comments, the required local effort. There's a very small millage rate that we also have to levy. It's a prior period funding adjustment. That's not always even included in an annual millage rate, but it is folded in with the required local effort. So this is the proposed final millage rates broken down by group. Required local effort's the biggest, 3.122. There's that very small funding adjustment. Then we have a basic discretionary operating of 0.748, and then the capital outlay millage of 1.5. And again, these are the maximum rates that we could levy. Everybody, all of our neighboring districts are at the 1.5 and the 0.748. So very little flexibility. So you can see that we do have a decrease in the absolute millage rate. It's going from 5.46 down to 5.378, a decrease of 0.082. So if somebody had a stable value and if their taxable value didn't change, they would see a decrease in their tax bill. Even though the millage rate is going down, if they see an increase in their tax base, their tax bill could go up. A required discussion topic is the rollback rate, and that's part of the transparency, the truth in millage. And what this is a calculation that says, okay, if the district wanted to collect the same revenue from taxes in 23-24 that were collected in 22-23, what would that tax rate be with the new taxable values, right? So keep revenue flat, taxable values go up, what's the tax rate going to be? And the answer to that is, and I'll just focus on the total line, 4.995 is the rate that if we levied that rate on the current taxable value, we would generate the same revenues as we did last year. I've noticed this afternoon where it says percent change. It's actually the percent that the proposed millage is above the rollback rate. So that's not the change in the rate. It's comparing the rollback rate to the proposed rate. So the 5.378 is 7.66% above the rollback rate. And we're required to include that statement in a number of documents. We ran ads in July, and a lot of the resolutions have the rollback rate calculation with that percentage. So there's a lot of effort put into trying to make sure that we are very transparent. Another interesting trend is we have had decreases in total millage consistently. We just went back to 2019-20. What's driving this really is the required local effort. And again, that's set by the legislature. And so, without getting political about it, if someone is elected to office and says, I'm going to keep taxes low and sees property values increasing, well, that rollback rate concept can come into play and, can support a decrease in the millage rate, but still see an increase in revenues. But it's not, if we got to keep our required local effort the same, like, the other tax levying authorities don't have that cap. So they can keep their millage rate the same, and with the increasing tax base, have significant increases in revenues. We're quite different in the way our taxing authority and tax levying authority are able to be managed by school board elected officials. We have a chart. It's not too dramatic. We talked about the option could have been to start it at 4 mills, but it's kind of misleading. But still, it's a downward trend. And then what's the impact on an average homeowner in the county? So we got the current value. This is an average single-family home, net of homestead, $219,000. So do that calculation that I did earlier, 5.378 mils on that value of, it rounded to 220, $1,180. So what was last year's average single-family home? Do the same thing with the decreasing millage. So you can see a pretty significant increase in the first row, but then the millage rate did drop. So, the combination of those two, we see an increase in the millage, or the tax bill on the average single-family home go up by $89.07 a year. So that's it for the millage rates, the tax rates. This is the budget, the final budget, the total budget for the district. And again, this will be amended. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, did you have any questions? No?
Thank you for thoroughly explaining that. I appreciate it.
Clerk, do we have any public comments? Okay. Superintendent.
My recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County adopt resolution number 2023-09, determining revenues and millages levied.
Motion.
Okay. Vice Chair Sanchez, I heard you first. And who second?
Second.
Member Panic. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County adopt resolution number 2023-10, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 23-24.
Motion.
Member Panic motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
Member Davis, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, that concludes our public hearing. I'm sorry, Mr. Barja.
I just wanted to, I did it the last time also, Jared Lowe, Budget Director, just wanted to say thanks to him again. Great work, great support.
Bravo,
you.
bravo, and thank you.
So thank you, Jared.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all very much. And that concludes the budget hearing. Thank you. We are adjourned.